Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Attention Talk Video. I'm your host, ADHD and Attention Coach Jeff Copper. I'm doing more and more videos these days about information that has been made clear to me around a program that I built called Cognitive Ergonomics from the Inside Out. It's a new field of engineering and, quite frankly, a new ADHD intervention. It's built upon Dr. Russell Barkley's executive function model that has precise definitions of executive functions, of what they are individually and collectively, and the use of something I've developed called attention scope, which is a means to bring tangibility to Dr. Barkley's model. Together, you use the two to make factual-based observations to problem solve. And what I want to talk about today is a little bit of a combination of self-awareness and factual observations. One of the things that I have been talking about for years on this channel is working memory and how working memory is impaired for people with ADHD. We've been talking about more and more illuminating how ADHD looks like a focus problem, and it is, but the underlying cause of it is when you have to problem solve around anything that's multifaceted and ambiguous, that's uncomfortable. So there's a reflexive urge to escape and go do something else. So if you began to realize ADHD more as a thinking impairment, it really explains a lot of things that the current paradigms don't. So one of the things I want to talk about, if you've got ADHD, is that a lot of times when I'm coaching people, we're talking about things that they want to do and trying to identify something that would work. And I want to illustrate is that to determine if something works or not is about problem solving, right? It requires a fair amount of thought, and it requires a certain level of self-awareness. And so, see how I can do that. Let me tell a story. I was coaching a guy one time that I met with regularly, and we would meet at a coffee shop. And we're in line kind of getting coffee, and we're not even coaching, it's just talking about something that he agreed to do at work. And I paused him and I said, hang on a second. I said, and you agreed to do this thing at work. Yeah. I said, did you take a look at the nature of it? He goes, what do you mean? I said, it's a tedious, repetitive, boring task. And he goes, yeah, I guess you're right. I go, when in your past? And the guy was like mid 40s. I said, in your entire life, can you tell me about a time when you were able to do anything that was repetitive, tedious, and boring for more than 30 days? So he started thinking, and he goes, I guess I can't think of any. I said, so why did you agree to it now? Another way of doing this is, what evidence do you have based off of your life that you would actually do that? Now, a lot of times people say they should do something or they ought to do something, or in our world, you just have to do something, which is not actually accurate. But the point really is, I find a lot of people with ADHD concocting these ideas of things that they're going to do. And the sounds really good on paper or really good in the book. But when it comes down to doing it and they take a look at their history, there's no evidence to suggest that they would actually stick to it. And therein lies where they kind of fail. What's subtle about this that some of you might not be picking up is a lot of times you're coming up with solutions or ideas that are easy based off a theoretical book. The hard thinking is really to think through the interaction with it to say, would I actually do that or not? There's also a self-awareness play. People with ADHD struggle to do anything that's tedious, repetitive, and boring. We've talked about this on the channel. Things that are boring are physically uncomfortable. It takes a lot of cognitive effort to sit in discomfort. Think about that. When you're in a lot of pain, if you do anything to get out of pain, if something's tedious and boring, you're squirming left and right. Think of like a tiger at the zoo. They're bored out of their mind. They're physically uncomfortable. So they start pacing the cage to rid themselves of the physical anxiety of the boredom. Let's bring this all back together. Cognitive ergonomics from the inside out is an interesting model because it begins to explain all this stuff. And it brings the stuff to the surface to say, maybe we should think at a little bit deeper level to solve these type of problems. So the point of this video is really to kind of share the learnings from cognitive ergonomics with you, and then sit there and say, all too often people are coming up with ideas to do things. And if you look back in your past and say, what evidence of my behavior in the past suggests that I would do this? I think you'll find a lot of times it's not there. It doesn't solve your problem as of yet, but it keeps you from going down these rabbit holes with the illusion that something's going to work when it doesn't. And also at some point in time, you're kind of confronting yourself and you have to have the self-awareness of that, hey, this really isn't going to work. And you have to try a little bit more creative or complicated ways to do some things, which ultimately will help you solve the problem. If you're new to our channel, we try to lay it out like it is like this. Please subscribe. If you're an existing viewer, what do you think? I always love your comments. I learn a lot from them, and it actually creates a lot of new content. We do what we do for you. If you like what we do, please hit the thanks button. We certainly appreciate a contribution. With that, we hope you've got some insight and learned something. Hope you've enjoyed this edition of Attention Talk Video. Take care.